Good morning. Thank you so much for joining us for this International Women's Day series of In Conversation with chats. We're really excited to have you today, and we couldn't think of a better organisation really to kick our conversations off. So would you like to tell us a little bit more about Her Roomies?
Yes, hi, thank you. Nice to see you. So I'm Chiara, Fraser, and I'm the co-founder of Her Roomies, and on the panelist or on this conversation is Nick, who's Fraser, who's also co-founder of Her Roomies. We're father-daughter. And basically we recently, in the last year or so, have launched Her Roomies. Her Roomies is the first accommodation rental platform that was created for her. So an accommodation rental platform created for and focused on women. And it's a platform that really gives women a safe rental space and throughout their full lifetime rental journey. So we have offerings of all different typologies, which go from student residences or student accommodations all the way to whole apartments and everything in between. So we have, rooms in shared apartments or shared flats, co-livings, homestays. And so we really wanted to give women a safe rental space where they can come back to at any stage of their life. And around this kind of rental experience and journey, we also have additional services that again cater to women and their potential needs when looking for a new home. So we're a female-focused platform. We're the first of its kind, and we're very excited to be here today to talk to you.
Fantastic. And what actually prompted you to set the platform up?
Well, I actually had a personal experience that I went through when I was looking for a rental in Barcelona. And at the time, I wasn't really sure if I wanted a room or in a shared apartment or if I wanted to go for co-living. I had a budget that kind of allowed for both. And through this experience, I realized that I was wasting a lot of time going through the different platforms that were available and looking through websites. And ultimately, I found myself on Facebook because I found it quite an intimidating experience. And on Facebook, there's a lot of different groups. And the majority of people actually who are on these groups are women, surprisingly, or not surprisingly, because actually it's a platform that allows you to connect and give, advice and support. And so I found, many other women of different ages that were going through what I was going through, who were there trying to either connect with other women looking for advice and support, or even listings, because I actually found that there were a lot of offers on Facebook that weren't on the other platforms that were specifically trying to connect with female tenants. So it was girls that were looking to share flats that only wanted to share with other girls. It was a lot of landlords that specifically were asking for female tenants. And so going through the experience and having all of the different feelings that I had, and then finding a place that actually connected us, I realized there was something missing in the market. And I'm really lucky that I have Nick as my father and co-founder, who has more than 35 years in the real estate, market, and has incredible experience throughout many different sectors of the industry. So I said to him, well, why don't we try and come up with something that really solves this gap in the market, solves an issue, and together we decided to launch Her Roomies.
Nick, from your point of view, I guess first of all, as a father, what kind of sort of challenges or thoughts did you have at the time that Chiara was looking for somewhere to live?
I mean, I think my obviously my exposure to this was through Chiara initially, because obviously I see it through her eyes. But clearly when I did a little bit of research into the market myself, I saw that there was a substantial a number of people, females, as Chiara mentioned, looking only to share with other females because of privacy reasons and other. And then, I looked at the kind of the numbers and the demographics and the potential size of the market just in that sector alone, forgetting any other part of the opportunity. And I realized that there was, significant demand. And then we started talking to not only private landlords, but corporate landlords in the PBSA sector and the build to rent sector. And, we kind of realized that in those sectors as well, there was an opportunity to be able to create a platform that basically spoke to women, whether they were in kind of, shared or cluster flats in the UK and in PBSA, whether they were in studios, whether they were in, shared accommodation and build to rent, whatever the context may be. There seemed to be, great interest in us being able to offer a segmented sales segmented and focused sales channel for these corporate users. So I was kind of, Chiara was looking at it through the lens of a tenant. I was looking at it through the lens of a landlord, because obviously being in the real estate sector and having worked in PBSA for some time, I saw it through that. And then basically, coming together, we realized, on the landlord side, there's a demand for a focused sales channel, and Chiara was looking at it through the lens of a tenant. So we kind of realized that there was, substantial untapped demand and the opportunity to create this platform, focusing on her, and very different to all other platforms. And so you haven't asked the question, but I'm going to say it anyway, is that all other platforms, doesn't matter, whether you're a student platform like student.com or Uniplaces or a Rightmove or a Zillow, whatever you are, these are all single transaction platforms. So you come on, you book your room, you pay your deposit, you pay your fee in some cases, and that's it. And the platform doesn't kind of really follow up with you again, and you don't become part of a community. We realized that there was an opportunity to create a community around our tenants. And if you start with the tenant when they first leave home, which is to go into student housing, the likelihood, if they have a good experience and they feel part of a community, is that they'll come back time and time again to rent through the platform, whether it's for shared accommodation, co-living, whatever the context may be. And so we feel that's where we, apart from being a female-focused platform, we differ completely from all other platforms, in that we create a community around the rental experience, which basically generates more community, because you go into a shared environment, you meet other people. How did you find? I got in Her Roomies, and then it becomes exponential, basically.
Yeah, that's really interesting, because I think you're right. I think generally a lot of the time the industry is very focused on booking a room, and it's like you said, it's a one-off transaction, and it's quite a I guess an unemotive experience quite a lot of the time, whereas what you're saying is, actually, you need to invest some time and effort into the community that you're going to be joining. And for a lot of people, a female-only environment is that first place for them to start. What other reasons do your female guests state as reasons for using your service?
I mean, I think one of the things that people don't really discuss, or that's not very, always brought to the forefront, is the gender pay gap. And so as females, we're actually paying a larger proportion of our salary towards the same accommodation, so room or apartment, than our male counterparts. And so I think there's a lot of, focus for women specifically, because of this gender pay gap, and because of the large portion that we're actually spending our salary towards rent, to find offers that, are legitimate, and to find them quickly, to find the best possible rental offer. And so I think, women having a space that they know they can come to, that has been thought out for them, kind of removes it gives them a first right of refusal, if you will, or gives them opportunities that are best suited for them quicker than having to go through all these different platforms. And one of the things that we notice is that, all the other platforms, you can select as a filter, female only or sharing only with girls, but ultimately you're just a filter. On Her Roomies, you're the protagonist. So again, it's about building the relationship, like you said, with women. I think, the fact that women feel like they have a safe space is really important. I have a lot of friends that are in the UK, and, they were talking about when they were first looking for their rental accommodations, several years ago, and they were going on Spare Room, and it's full of everything. They didn't really know what they could trust, what they couldn't. So I think safety is a huge thing for women. Convenience, or, having something that's catered to them, thought out for them, and giving them, as I mentioned, the best offers possible in terms of.
And coming back to the community thing, the community aspect of it, obviously, having the possibility of support of other females, either in the same accommodation context or in the same city, in the same town, in the same neighborhood, mentorship. My landlord said this, is anybody out there in the Her Roomies community? Have you heard about this? Is this correct? All those types of things, I think, is very, very important. And touching on security and is really important too, because it doesn't matter where you are in the world. It's not Spain, it's not UK. There are scams all the time of landlords, especially in, I would say, the scams are obviously the identity of the landlord actually owning the place or having a lease on it, whoever they may be. But also, the deposit of a room. Now, in many countries, landlords treat the deposit of a room as an extra month's rent, and they know very well the tenant. Maybe she's a student, maybe she's got her first job. She doesn't know how to kind of go to a lawyer. It probably ends up costing more to get the lawyer than to get the deposit back. So I think we want to find ways of actually making it easier, more transparent, and less less opportunistic for landlords to assume that the deposit is automatically an extra month's rent, which happens I mean, whenever I go on any platform or any trust reviews or whatever, it's always the same thing. The landlord's kept he said, I broke something, I can't get it back. I'm leaving, I'm moving city, I'm moving country. So I think it's very important, the security, not only the identity, but the security of the rental process itself.
Absolutely. And you talked before about kind of the sort of the commercial landlords. What's their response, the kind of the build to rent and PBSA landlords been of providing female only flats?
Well, I mean, there are, I don't know if you want to answer that, Chiara.
I mean, I think it depends. You know, we've actually, I mean, 50% of all tenants are women. So it's actually a huge, you know, if you say you created a platform for women, you created a platform that's, you know, catering to a niche, but the niche is really huge. I mean, in some cases, especially for the corporate clients that we speak to, more than 50% of all their tenants are actually women. So this is a huge demographic that they need to cater to, they need to attract, they need to speak to. So whether it's in the context of a shared apartment, or whether it's just in a context of wanting to get their eyeballs for their full apartment or their homestay or whatever typology it might be. And so we found that actually our corporate landlords, you know, are probably, I mean, Nick has been in the industry for so long that he has a lot of contacts, but at the end of the day, it's only, you know, it only helps us with the introductory meeting. When you're there, you have to actually explain the concept and why it would work. And the response has been incredible. They all understand it. They all want to target female tenants. And so they find a platform that, as Nick mentioned before, gives them a segmented, focused marketing channel, because obviously, you know, they're kind of going for 100% of the pie, whereas with Her Roomies, they can go with towards 50% or more, but in a very catered way. And I think that's kind of really gives them an advantage when they're trying to speak to women. But I think what's also really interesting is kind of the approach that we take with the corporate partners as much as possible, when possible, is to create exclusive opportunities for them on Her Roomies. So, for example, we worked with a student accommodation last year that had just launched in Granada and in Spain, and Porto in Portugal. And they basically had cluster flats, and they were launching, and they understood that in this case, you know, girls that were going to study would want to share with girls. So they said to us, you know, what can we do to really create a product that only you as Her Roomies will have exclusively, and us as the accommodation. So we came up with a welcome box for females. So if they were to book with us, they got a special promo code, and it was a whole experience. And for them, this was a great initiative because they got to engage with women. They gave them an asset or a cluster flat or an opportunity or a typology that they knew they wanted. And through Her Roomies, we're able to give them an experience that no other platform can give them. So I think specifically for our corporate clients, it's been amazing response, but not only because we help target, you know, such a large demographic for them, but because of the opportunities they see working with us in a more creative way, in a more engaging way, in a way that kind of builds relationships further. Because at the end of the day, you know, if you're a student and you use Her Roomies, and you know, you're bound to tell all your friends, because, you know, women are all about community, so we help and support each other. And it could be the mother who's helping the daughter find a student accommodation and then tells other mothers, or it could be the girls that, you know, are going there, and maybe this corporate client has student accommodations as well as co-livings and a whole portfolio. And, you know, through the stages of the different through her rental life, she can move from one asset to the next. So I think they really see value in that.
Yeah, what a fantastic opportunity. And have you had demand, you know, or do you get inquiries from men wanting the same, or, you know, or maybe, you know, wanting to prefer living with women?
I think, I mean, one statistic that we have, and I'll let Chiara answer that. One statistic we have, which is really important, is of our registered tenants. So we have around 6,000 registered users at the moment. Of the tenants, 99.7% are female. So what does that mean? It means obviously we're resonating with our target audience, but the 0.3% who come on and register, they can, you know, ask for, you know, make reservation requests. So, but clearly, I mean, just on that metric alone, you know, our target audience has realized, you know, what we are and what we offer, and I think it speaks for itself. But I don't know if you want to add anything to that, Chiara.
I mean, I think probably what we've experienced most from men is jealousy. Their comment is that, you know, they're just like, oh, well, why is there something only for female? And, you know, there are plenty of generic platforms. So you're not, you know, you have opportunities. You don't have to necessarily come to Her Roomies, but it's like saying, why are there any products that are created for women? Because we have specific needs that you might not want. But you're welcome to come onto Her Roomies and make a request, because ultimately, you know, we're an accommodation platform. We don't own the assets, we list them. So if there is a man who wants to use Her Roomies because of whatever reason, he found an offer he likes, he can put a request in, and ultimately it's whoever is receiving the request that can decide or not. But I mean, there will be men that, you know, use Her Roomies, and it doesn't have to be the renter. Again, it could be the father who's trying to help the daughter find, you know, so there will be instances where there are men that use the platform, but clearly we're targeting women, and if men choose to use it, then that's their choice. But yeah, I think it's more been in the context of, you know, anger as to how come women get a place like this? I want one too. Okay, well, maybe somebody else will start his roomies. I'm not sure, but that's not what we're about. So,
and what's next for Her Roomies? You're growing incredibly quickly and resonating clearly with the audience. So where's the journey going next for you both?
I mean, we've been working really hard for the last year to, you know, consolidate. We launched in Spain, and, you know, we quickly grew with student accommodation partners throughout the UK, and then organically also grew into Holland, Germany, and Portugal and Ireland, because, you know, these partners, the corporate ones, like we were saying, kind of understood what we were and wanted additional, you know, visibility on Her Roomies. But I think our focus is really to consolidate properly in Spain, and we have just been working on setting up our crowdfunding campaign. So we'll be launching on Crowdcube on the 1st of March, a crowdfunding campaign, which is really exciting for us because it means that we're able to open up the fundraising to, you know, the community, which is everything for us, and really speak to women in all different European contexts, let's say, and build up and continue building a portfolio of both tenants, but also, of course, of the landlords. And, you know, depending on where we are, you know, for example, in Spain right now, I mean, Nick can talk a little bit more about this, but there's a serious trend growing in co-livings and build to rent. And so we see, you know, different types of our portfolios or our typologies or our listings growing dependent on market trends. And we just continue kind of listing them and growing the platform.
Yeah, I mean, we do have obviously a strategy to scale. So we will, you know, 2022, or this where we are today, we'll be consolidating in Spain. We'll be starting to do some things in the UK this year. So, and then we will start scaling up properly into the UK and other EU countries from 2023 onwards. So we would expect to be in most of the EU plus UK by 2025. That's our plan. And you know, potentially looking further afield thereafter. So we do have a strategy. Obviously, we want to we don't want to run before we can walk, and we want to do things in a measured way. But we do obviously have aspirations to be more than just a single country play, because wherever there's a mature rental market, there are females, and they can obviously take advantage of what we have to offer them.
Brilliant. Well, thank you both so much for talking to us today about International Women's Day and your journey with Her Roomies. It sounds like a fantastic platform and a great opportunity. So I think we're all looking forward to seeing how it grows over the next few years. So thank you very much.
Thank you for the opportunity. Thank you. Thanks.